All right, well, welcome to Sunday Restorative. I appreciate you taking some home practice time to connect here. And so I'll do the best I can at placing some structure, but also a minimal zone of exploration so that we can really focus on reorganizing the body's spaces. So that's clearly kind of the base I like to focus with. But today we're going to start with a fairly intense core practice to start. So what we'll do is we're going to sit in front of the bolster. So the bolster is lengthwise behind you. I want you to place your seat so it's close as could be, except you're not sitting on top of your bolster. Okay, you're going to place either a block or a ball, or something that's light enough, center of the knees, that you could hold on to it. So this is extremely light, right? And I can squeeze into it. But if you have the block, it has a little bit of a different intensity strength-wise. So first thing, we're going to hold on around the knee surface, so you feel that hands on top of the knees. I want you to lean your body back and feel when you start to create that arch in the spine. So feel the arch, feel that slight roundness of the upper back that is called holding your head up, okay? And then as you squeeze the object center of the knees, you're going to start to move forwards and then lift up your arms. Okay, it's fairly simple. We lean back, we either hold the knees or we brush besides them. And then we work on squeezing to lift up the sides of the waist and the lower back. So place some amount of concentration in this as if it's a fairly mindful activity to work through inhaling, lifting up, and exhaling, leaning back. Feel when you squeeze into the ball or the block, or maybe a soup can. As you lean back, try to keep a hold of that object. And then this next time, we're going to stay back and squeeze so the legs, the surface of the legs is quite active and toned. And then as you move yourself forward, we're going to remove the object. If it's a block, you're going to put it beside the legs. And then set up for our first true shape, where your pelvis is snug to the bolster. And we place a belt connected to make a loop overhead around our pelvis backing. And then hook the belt over the tops of the feet and tighten it down so that you can select a intensity. That's kind of what happens in this pose, right? You select a intensity with the grip of the belt, and it really is an adductor, inner thigh, the lengthening of that inner tissue into hips. So as you guide your spine back on the bolster, feel if when you lower your ribs back, if your feet tend to kind of pull towards you. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you to resist that push forward with your feet. Feel that push and that stretch on the inner thighs. And then taking either a sandbag or a part of moving the ribs open. So you can either part ribs with sand or part ribs with the arm bones on the floor. And start to center the emphasis into your breathing. Let your eyes close if you happen to have an eye pillow. This would be a good entry point into the breath practice. To elongate your breath, really filter the air in through the nose and relax out of the mouth. Let's gradually sense where the arms could be placed so that you're both feeling awareness and activation in the chest muscles. Those surfaces are starting to present themselves to open, but you're beginning to feel some ease and control of your breath. You want just the right dose of intensity via the stretch of the lymph channels when the arms open. And so those deep channels across the chest tissues, the armpits, and really let the fingers relax. Feel the belly expand and contract. Try to let each of those motions of breath, both sides of it, to equalize and visualizing the belly as a balloon that you're slowly filling up. And you're massaging the organs through the root pressure of breathing. So feel the quality for a few more moments of your breath at the belly level, so belly breathing. You might slide the hands farther down besides the waistline. And feel if you can actually roll your shoulders equally back. And they may decide not to go down, but they can actually go back. So feel that visceral quality of breathing deeply, feeling the actual weight on your chest moving with the breath. If you have a little bit of weight, you can put on your breathing muscles. Can definitely sharpen and create some support for your breath force. So a few more moments. I like to let this one kind of completely finish the awareness of it by moving my arms over my chest, interlace my fingers. The arms are in more of a circling pattern, and then push the palms up. And as I gradually reach my arms overhead, united at my hands, I'm being careful to focus on my ribs moving versus gripping up in my shoulders. Yeah, the shoulder obviously is linked to, well, you call it a shoulder because it's a joint, but the ribs may not be a place you really think of that joints as much. So they have a visceral quality of moving with your breath. So feeling the circulation. And if it's minimized right now, we are going to expand on it gradually. Okay, start to separate your hand texture together, opening. And then any sand you have on the ribs, shift that to the side on the floor. And then unbuckle the belt. And as you bring your knees up to point, feel the feet a little wider than hips distance. Feel your hands on the floor besides the hips. And then pressing your back into the bolster. And noticing what you recruit to get your back to press. It's like I've got to recruit my pelvis a little bit, but I want to isolate my back a little. So press your back into the bolster. Use your core, and we're going to move our right knee towards the chest and then cross the right ankle to the left knee, and then keep that in motion. So my left thigh is going to rest down against a block or a towel or one of those circular balls, which I like quite a bit for this, but the block is there and it actually works fine right now. I'll stay with what's already there. So my right foot could kind of circle around, do. It doesn't have to have a purpose of reaction. But my left hand holding the right knee is important here. So feel when you pull that leg directionally towards you. Yep, and you'll feel your right hip. And stay precisely on the right hip. Even if the right hand is kind of plugged into the floor, feel when you can pull on that leg and that awareness that kind of jostles through the outer right thigh into the kind of the crust of the hip is where I kind of feel it. It kind of reaches around into the hip. You can move your ribs like you're trying to shift them back left to right and feel how complete you can be on your back. Now stay with that energy, release the grip with your left hand, and feel if they still have a connection. Even if you're not holding with your hand, if you can still feel your hip. And now as you come back to center, stretch the right leg straight down on the floor as if you're reaching into the heel, flex the right foot. I want you to lift the right leg up off the floor just a couple inches at the most, so it's hovering off the ground. Breathing, shoulders back to the bolster. Recruit the lower core boards of the belly. Really keep that right heel pushing forward, so your hands resting beside you. Breathing, bring the right knee in, push the foot on the floor. Cross the left ankle to the right knee, and then start to guide that right thigh to the block or the ball on the right side. Now, whatever's over there. Right hand to left knee, grasp it, and feel the awareness of the thigh stretching when you pull the leg towards you. Feeling the ribs centering back. And by now, you may have noticed the connectivity of the rib cage in the back. When I think of my ribs, I really think of the rib cage as a front experience. Like I'm clearly, brain is looking forwards and feeling forwards, but maybe consider your bolster as an object that's helping you feel the back spaces. Feel all the different spaces you work with in this practice. So continue centering into your practice this morning. Left hand could be beside you, it could be down beside you or up beside you. Besides can be lots of different answers, can't it, with this hand. Yeah, so rather than feeling as if you're being looked at in your pose, you're not. So you have some freedom here. You have some free range with that left arm. You can move, it can stay grounded. Feeling when you're pulling into that leg. The second side likely has some very interesting differences in puzzle. It could be parts of your back lift up easier. But as far as muscle base intensity, when I let go of the knee, I'm going to move the left knee back center and then stretch that left leg down, hover it over the floor. Yeah, and I like to contrast these and kind of compare my where I get some hypertone in the hip flexor. So you might do this for about another 5 breaths on the left leg forwards. Flex the foot. Close your eyes and really register where the most tone and pressure is in your thigh tissues. So this is hip flexor work as much as it is psoas strength. And then slide that foot in and compare the right side one more time and just simply notice where you have a strong link in your stomach muscles. Right? It could be a compilation of reasons, and change to the other side and feel. And we're going to slide that left knee so it reaches open. So we rotate, hinging, and turn to your left hip, coming on up, okay? And let's take our props behind us and sort them out so that they're in a horizontal heap, okay? It's the horizontal heaping. So we'll take a bolster, come on bolster, place it next to the hip, across the mat, straight across horizontal, side to side. And then I take my blankets in the same fashion. Blankets or towels or clothes, whatever you want to pile up. You could use clothes too, I suppose. Okay. All right, don't get rid of anything yet. You never know if you'll need it for yoga practice. So if the left side leans down, I'm going to have my sand all ready, okay, for my hip. But first things first, I like to have something on the inside of my knee. Could be a block, could be a ball, could be a towel, okay? Could pass on the idea. So I have this right thigh extending. So when I lean into my bolster, my thigh tissue is kind of hydrating. So give it some time to feel where your leg is going to be, either pushing back to stretch the hip, or it's a little bit forward. Okay, adjust your blanket so it actually feels comfortable. If it's too low, you can wad up your blanket on top. Okay, comfortable. I'm going to scoot into my left hip so it's a little easier for me. And then placing a sand or rice bag on that right side. Right, you could go across the hip so you have a little greater traction and separation of these two bodies of awareness in our bones, right? This link and attachment of the hip can oftentimes be where if we massage that area, we know that that's pretty vulnerable and achy. So I think sand can be helpful in that. It gives some circulation to the spot. Right arm can reach overhead to a block or a height that you can center onto. And you might pass on that version and let the right arm be behind your back. But settle the left side of your face, right? The left side of your face is next to the blanket and supported. And your right limb either has a resting point at the end or it's behind your back. It might be wandering those two motions for the whole experience. Let your head rest into the blankets. And let yourself feel the body of the pose. So it takes some time to get into the shape, but once you're there, you might notice that the neck is a place that takes time to relax. So feel what movement and stretch you could maintain to relax your neck. And then breathe the ribs expansive. Feel that expansiveness on the intake and feel letting go on the out. And go for it with lengthening, feeling the side body reach. Eyes closed. Inhale, ribs. Exhale, empty. It's called a waist tail. So feeling that movement at the ribs and the waist, inhaling. And out breathing. You can't probably likely out breath yourself. So a long exhalation. And now scan your focus in your pelvis. It's on its side, so it actually can move closer down towards the floor with the pivot, or it can move back. There's these alternating influences in our flexors and our lateral rotators of the hip. So give this a few moments, and I like to put my right hand on the bolster for this. And then like you're wagging your tail, right? You're moving your hip downwards. The sand might fall off, but you might find that you can keep that motion. Now each of these spatial alignments that we're working through and shapes will change how you orient into your spine. The spine orientation is next. So as I lean myself either back or in, I can do either, whichever feels convenient. I'm going to use my pile of hands to pile down under me and help myself up. Okay, so let's move the blanket away from behind you and tuck one blanket next to your bolster. Take this block. Let's keep them both in the front yard, just in case, depending on what you got for props. Okay? These will all get a little bit better with how we invent our own practice. So when you come on up to sitting, let's stretch our right leg straight out and our left knee bending so that foot is connected to the right inner thigh. And you have a block or a ball with the left knee if you like. Feel like, oh, I can sit up, I have a nice arch in my back, I can stay with this. You can pass on that object, but it's an idea that for some of us is essential for the knee. So when I put a sandbag or a weight on my left thigh top, my knee feels a little better with that, rounds the leg. So you might stay with that support, and that could be enough. And then let's take our belt, not our block, our belt. We're going to hold it overhead wide. Yeah, be as generous as you can with this width. Okay. So when you move your belt back, and I have a lot more belt than I anticipate on this one, I'm going to keep it so wide that I barely feel the tension kind of scrubbing in my shoulder. I feel like there's a little bit of pressure in my shoulder joint. But when I move to my fullest back reach, and then when I come up, it's like the opposite of a lat pull down there. And then when I move back, I kind of bypass the lat pull down and try to stretch back. So depending on your shoulder range, give it a few more moments of this openness. And you can lean side to side, of course. You can do whatever you please here with that reach of the belt wide. Slight twists, but the key is open heart. Open space in the front. Okay. So feel viscerally when the neck is in a sustained lift. Okay, now as we move the belt down, what we'll do is we'll place that aside and move a block besides the right leg. So I can have a towel wadded up or a blanket or a block. So it's mid-height. It's going to be higher than the leg itself, the physical leg. And I'm going to work my way towards putting my elbow on that block. So I'm going to put my elbow higher. So when I lean into my right side on something besides my right leg on the outside, I'm going to move my left arm behind my back and feel when my head tilts and this left side starts to kind of marinate in this light amount of stress for the torso. It's almost like you're between two planes of glass here, that kind of reactivity in the core body. So feel when you lean. And if you anticipate lifting your arm to the sky, go for it. If you're working with the subtleties, this is a pretty good one to be mesmerized with. Feel the waist patterns of the core, and feel the belly move with your breath. Turn your gaze and your neck and your brain down to the right arm. That makes a difference in my tone and my shoulder and my neck. It's a bit easier. But survey the situation on that left side body for about another 5 minutes. Now, this is interesting. We're working our waist, and spinal twists are working the waist as much as the spine. So we kind of feel this reach to the side. Now, when you gradually use your left hand on the left thigh to support pushing down to bring it up, try to keep this side, this hydration continuing. Right? Hydration, hydra waist here. Hydra waist. So I'm going to take the right leg and I'm going to cross it over. I'm actually going to pick it up. And cross it to the outer side of my left leg. If this position twist-wise is really too much on a knee joint, or you get here and you're falling over with it, what you could do is put that right foot on a blanket or a block in front of you instead of across your leg. Or put it on something that's higher than the floor in front of your left knee. That works fine. Same direction, right? You have the left arm reaching to either the right knee or the arm reaches to the outside of the right thigh. And as I turn, I'm going to try to reach for the sandbag handle. If you don't have a handle, you can also bring your hand to the blanket behind you. If that's limiting for you to feel like you can lift up out of your roots, you can use a block or another towel or blanket. So feel the waist turn. Feeling it basically churning and forward body. Belly moves with the breath. Feeling the breath deepen and slow down. Exhaling as you're twisting. And feel the mixture of reaction here. So some of us it might be let's get out, and some it might be, oh, this is interesting, strength in my arm as well. So when we come back center, let's take a counter twist. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll move our elbows over towards the floor on the left side. I will use blocks or a towel on my left side. This seems reasonable for my back muscles. So when I lean into it, it's another twist, isn't it? It's quite a counter twist to the spinal twist. So when I lean down to my elbows, this is quite intense in my right side of my waist, in my spine. Spine is moving. And don't let the spine vine droop too much. No drooping spine vine. So feel your elbows gently press, breathe. Now stay with the energy as you come back up to some relative equilibrium here. Right leg uncrosses. Yeah, I would be rather careful here with sand as you come out of this one. Take it away. And then move both of my blocks to the front yard and feel a reach. Your hands could be on a towel set, or it could be on blocks. It could be on a chair seat or a stool on this one. That would be nice. And I can keep my spine long. I think a yoga practice space would be uncluttered, but I guess not restorative. So feel when the arms are here, stay here longer. Prop up your legs if that feels helpful. If your knees are feeling uncomfortable, move them around. Stretch a leg out. And then we'll move back into sleeping pigeon pose for those that are comfortable with that. Okay? So we'll take the right leg straight back. Okay? We'll feel the left foot hooked to the bolster. And then if I put my blocks low or a blanket in front, which is pretty good too to have a blanket on this one. It's softer surface, so there is some benefits to that. Okay. So you can add props. I know some of you have a couple bolsters, so you can use one more bolster under your elbows on this one. And feel if you can get the front of that right thigh to be flush with the bolster. So you're not cattywampus, you're kind of reaching your weight into your left thigh, which you might be having an issue with. So I try to gradually guide my hips to squaring them almost on position. Feel where the hips stretch back and the spine rounds into a cat shape, chin to chest. Inhale, arch the spine. Exhale, cat shape. Movement isn't required here, so if you want to stay still in your pigeon shape, that's fine. This is not for everyone to move in this pose. Now, when we come out of this one, we will bring our hands down. And we're going to swing the right leg forward. When you're ready, you can stay in it longer as well. We're going to come forward. And I'm going to move my legs both equally in front and shake them out. A little bit of tap down on your legs, especially the top of them, right up towards the thigh lid. So try to use your hands and fists right up at the thigh lids. And then at the part of the quads that can be kind of brick-like. Okay, and be sure the back of the knees are comfortable. They're not hyperextended here, so you have to keep a little vigilance there, whether you put a blanket under them or you keep them in a micro bend. Okay, now as you slide down, you'll grasp a hold of that other blanket, place it back. And we'll take that side sage to the right hip down, and it's completely up to you how you use your blocks or the ball that you might have along with you. So if you're leaning into this right hip, you might require something under the inside of that left knee to kind of micromanage this alignment, right? Otherwise, you end up having this knee inversion, which isn't the best thing for your knee structure. So something underneath that would be nice. Not everyone's vulnerable in their knees, but some of us have some knee things going on. So when you come up, at some age, though, you end up having that as a vulnerable joint. Okay. So the hip joint, though, we're working on packing it and creating some strength with the weight bearing. So when I lean in, you could let your left arm open so you're in a chest opener on this pose too. Right, it's depending on where you're positioned on your right buttock, it's going to make that decision. So our bodies can really spatially reorganize from some of these subtle practices. So when I reach through my upper arm I can feel that exposure in the arm and in the ribs. And I don't have to keep it that intense. I can bring the arm behind my back. I can stretch it overhead and find a block and place that overhead as well. So give yourself some freedom. This is the freedom you got right now, right? To kind of feel what would be helpful. Right now, my left knee is just beginning to spark up some concern. So I either turn a little bit of my weight to my right hip and see if that alleviates it. And if it doesn't, I can stack my knees in a fetal position. And that surely did it. That was easy. And my focus is really reserved to my side. That's where I want to open up, not my leg and my knee here. So notice what's important for the position, for your ribs, for your waist, tail. Right, inhale through your waist. Like you got some actual lung pockets here in your ribs. Because how much air you get into the lungs depends on the movement of the ribs. So enjoy a few more moments moving your sand anywhere. If you want to do it higher, keep it where it's at. Breathe, feel the reach. Notice how simple but disciplined this practice can be with giving the body time in each of the shapes. They all have a purpose in the sequence. Now, where that left arm is roaming, for some of you might be moving, for some it might be pretty still over the face. So as we turn into a cannonball shape to the right hip, I'm going to slide the sand off, and as I come up, I'm kind of aware where I'm going with it. So I'm going to sit upright on my bolster. I'm going to pull in my blankets, move one away, the left leg stretches out, and place a sandbag on the top of the right thigh. Now, this is essential here. So I have the weight. Now this feels like a ball or block under my knee would be helpful. Right? So use that support and then reaching down to that left side yard of your leg. Yeah, we were recently reaching and sculpting out this left side. So now we're going into that squeezing where we put our arm down, so that basically pulses circulation into the side. I was just exposing, alternately squeeze and so forth. So this side, the arm a little bit higher might be better for you, a little lower. And then feel when the waist turns to the right. Yeah, this can bring on a kind of a vision of a mannequin here. Like, I'm kind of moving, like my movement is a little choppy. So feel, if you're a living being, right, that you have some vitality with breath, sparks some change here. So you might bring your arm over. You might bring your arm back. Turning your head down towards the left arm. Just turning your brain and the weight of your head can affect that lower back right side of the waist. Right, deep in the back of the waist. Breathing slow. Exhale, hold. But very simple. I suppose sometimes you do get in these shapes and there is a mannequin quality, like you're kind of turning the bones and then holding the shape, but feel where there is the breath base. And then as your left foot flexes, kind of an interesting one here. using that inner lift through your core to bring you up. So I'm going to press into my sitting bones and come up now. So we have this right side open. So we'll simply thread the left leg front. We're going to leave it in front. Okay. So you might want to keep a hold of that sand on the right thigh. I like to have that loose twist so the root leg is grounded. If you have anything into the right knee, you've got to remove it for this unless you're going to put your left foot on a block in front of you to take a twist. This is version 1. Okay. Version 2 is my left leg crosses over the right leg. And then I'm going to have a block behind me. So when I hook the right elbow, or if your foot is on a block in front, you would hook the hand and then turn to the left. So feel that visceral quality of moving. Finding some room in this kind of tidy quarters, right? From your belly base to your right where the ribs intersect below the sternum, right? It's a pretty tidy quarters with your organs. So feel when your arm muscle pushes to that left leg. And feel if your back is rounding excessively, like kind of pushing your ribs back. Feel if you can lift up with a breath. And then exhale, turn, or waist, tail, turn. You might pretend to relax your eyes. You might be feeling rather focus on this vigorous stretch of the spine. This isn't really a sleepy stretch, it requires some tone. But let the belly really move with your breath. Let it expand and contract. Really free flow the belly. You might hear it. Now I start to slide the right arm's pressure from that left leg, and I'm going to move the block from behind me forwards. And then take a simple cross-legged. We're going to move our sandbag leg. So I'm left leg forward, right shin. And as I sit my bones back into the bolster and lean a little forward, you can have your hands on your thighs, you can have your hands on the floor, on your blocks, but emphasize the sensation that basically travels in the legs, right? These kind of tunnels of funnel tunnels, right? It's kind of moving through, and viscerally you might feel it mostly at your hips, pressure-wise. We want to feel the pressure valves even in the adductors. Stimulate that flow of lymph. So feel when you're leaning. Hands could be down. Something about having your hands grounded on this. Now we'll come back to sleeping pigeon with the right hip focus. You might lean. Actually, wait, not quite yet. We're not quite there. Walk our blocks over to the right side. I almost forgot. Just about there. Okay, walk our blocks over to the right. You can take your left leg, cross it over, you keep it in front, and come into that canter twist. All right, already almost got caught. So lean into it, feel that circulation into your back, and then across into that lower base into your hip. This might be a nice setup position, actually. So get a feel for what could help out. Now, I feel like there's some reservation in my shoulders. Part of this because I want to look back towards the screen, but feel if I can lean down right towards the floor. as you come back forward, feel if you can be pretty outstretched with your arms to bring the left leg back. Kind of play with that reaching pattern. Right knee forward, left leg backwards, backyard. Backyard sleeping pigeons. Okay, so my knee is out. I have it kind of, it's not really tossed out. It's pretty focused in my sensation. So I have that external rotation. And you will feel a little deeper if your elbows are lower. It's a little deeper stretch in your glutes if your elbows are down versus up. So I would try to go as far as I can with my elbows sinking. Really feel that visceral quality of your elbows down, your hips centered. Breathing. Now, arms probably feel like they have to work in tandem in most of our sequencing. But you can tell we isolate one side from the next often. So when we let our weight push back, like we're kind of in flight forward, but we're going to push back now. So I want you to push back so your knees are going to be on your blanket. And your bolster is going to be far forward. Yep, make sure that you still have your base props nearby in case. But I've got this bolster so far front that if I reach to it, I get my back to stretch a little bit. So feel your arms reaching. And the left hand is going to stay on the bolster, and the right arm is going to leave under the left arm. So I'm just going to turn and put my head on the floor and feel into my shoulder. So we're isolating one side from the next. And my right palm is trying to stay down. It kind of wants to pivot. My shoulder knows that, but I'm trying to establish some ground rules with my hand. So feel that arm reaching through. Feel the back reaching, simple. Now as that right arm unwinds, you're going to work with both of your hands reaching forward, shoulder width apart, and then lean your hips down to the floor. Inhale, arch. And exhale, move into cat or child's pose. You choose. So if you want to push back to child, go for it. But feel that articulation of both directions for the spine. The front of the spine, reaching through the core. And then through the back of the spine, rounding your back and alternate that motion. So really give it some feel of movement here. Hips, flexors, core, and then motion back. You might want to start to get a feeling of your feet coming up here. Okay, so if you've got some sockies on, this might be a good time to move them away so that you can start to feel your feet, the toes. Okay, so now when I switch, I'll bring my right hand up. I'm going to weave my left arm under, and yeah, it might be a little bit more intense on your second side. So if you feel the differences from one side to the next, take heart with that. See if you can give yourself some support. Maybe your bolster's closer with your right hand on it. You might adjust. Left palm is down. Now regulate motion. Left arm comes back through. As I reach my hands down and my toes up, or lift the knees up, stretch your feet back so the roots of the toes feel the heels reach to the floor, and the knees are bendy. Okay, so bend it a bit, and let the spine lengthen from the tailbone. Let your weight of your head stretch out your back. Okay, you have options to be bendy, which would mean alternate, kind of squishing your heel towards the floor. Try to feel the root of the toes back to smushing your heel downwards. And then when you're in downward dog, you're going to work your way into your finger span. So hands open. Stretch out through the roots of the shoulders. And our hands opening is obviously connected to the shoulder zone. Okay, you can stay here. If you want to come down to child's pose, this is a good time. That would mean knees down, wider than ribs, toes together, lean back. Forehead down on your hands or the floor. And those that are meeting in dog pose, we'll step our right foot into the center line and let the left leg lift up. And turn the hip open into three-legged dog, but also fire hydrant pose. So that knee is open, stretching and draining through the hip. Yeah, viscerally your arms might feel quite a bit of energy stretching through them. So working with that inversion, right? Reversing the effects of gravity internally. This is one way. We don't often do inversions, and this type of inversion in restorative, the active, like the energetic inversion with the muscles toning. So when we switch to the other side, feel your left foot and your right foot next to each other, big toes close. And then when the right leg picks up, turn the hip open and bring the right heel towards the buttock. And the best that you can in flexibility, right, will make a difference. So the more open and flexible the tunnels of energy are in the legs from our practice, the easier this can become. And you're basically working with the muscles and the endurance. So feeling, I'm assuming you're feeling. And now when you pivot that right foot, those of us that are in child's pose will meet with doggers. So we'll all lower down to the knees. Feeling and moving the bolster straight in front and come down onto that bolster. Be sure it's close enough to your thighs. When you lower down, the bolster is under the front of your hips. Okay. So I rest my elbows. I rest my case. I rest my elbows on this one. So my hands can feel that kind of energy kind of sputtering through them after putting the weight. Okay, feel your legs reach back and feel the shoulders motion back as best as you can. You kind of shrug them forward and back. Okay, we're going to bring the crown of the head forward, like we have a ray of energy moving out of our crown. And then slide your hands back under the shoulders, elbows in by the sides, crown of the head forward, so that kind of flattens out the neck a little bit more. So I keep my head forward, elbows by the sides. Breathing, strengthening your back. Keep the hands on the floor, grasshopper, right? So you keep the hands down, you have those elbows by your sides. Insect mode is this one, I think. Now, if my belly is moving into the bolster, kind of feeling that pulse in the belly, we'll slide the hands back. This is important stuff. This stuff in between our restorative simplicity into our back restorative set. See if you can keep aware with these active poses. So my elbows are by the sides. Now, with my toes relaxed, I'm going to push and lift up and let the waist support the strength in my back muscles. Try keep the waist and your back working. Now, when I lift up this time, it feels so-so. And I feel a little pressure in my low back. So I'm going to try again. Lower down. I'm going to move my hands a little forwards. And then when I come up, that feels a little easier in my back. Okay, so what you could do is bring your hands forward and see if that feels better in your back. We want to strengthen the lumbar so, right? We don't want them to be in a sad, rounded shape. We want back bends. As if we're going to get older, we're going to want to do some back bends. And as you lower down, try to feel the waist and the ribs expansive, like wide. Okay, that feels kind of good, moving your arms out. Okay, now as you slide your hands to an appropriate height under your shoulders, and then I push and come back with my hips. I'm going to step the right foot to the top right corner of my mat, so it's right next to my bolster, but my thighs are turned out. So what you're working with is this reach of the hip flexors, and that includes the psoas, but it also gives a nice stretch to your breathing muscle, your diaphragm. So you might work with this one, trying to get your thigh as low as you can. And let's say you're kind of here and your hip is a little up and it's locked. It's just not going anywhere. What you could do is add a blanket on top of the bolster so that you can sink into that hip stretch. You can also put your blocks under your hands. Right, so now I have a little support. And my thigh has more arch to it. It's just got more swoop, right, with my architecture now with my hands up. Sometimes that works good. That feels a little more satisfying in my thigh. So my right knee is above the ankle versus kind of twitching over the toes. Feel a few more pulses of breath. See if you can stay supported but aware of your thigh stretching. And when I move my ribs forward, a super arch, I'm going to push into my hands, and I don't want to lose the hip flexor awareness here. So when I push into my hands, and then I push into my right foot, and I start to lift up my left leg from the bolster, I want to encourage you, before you catch the hip back and it tightens again, keep it forwards. Keep it forwards. Right leg back. Right up dog, so your legs are lengthening in the front. And then we step the left foot, so it's a little tricky to get the hip flexor to stay long versus short. Yeah, so work your way. Now this side I feel like I could lower my elbows. It's a little much to stay up. But I'll work with it. I'll see if I can get closer to my bolster. And feel my heart move forwards. Yeah, part of it is the processing in each of these shapes. So I really give you an applause for giving this some focus at your home. Not easy. But it is useful, right? Useful work for our circulation in our connective tissue, primarily the lymphatic drainage, kind of working with the lab of the body. So notice the resistance points in your thigh rim, right at the very top of the right thigh. We're going to maintain this right front thigh focus. When I feel my arch in my back, I'm going to move my hip channel back to almost an all fours pattern, right? Almost. I'm going to adjust my bolster, turn it so it's across the mat, horizontal, and then walk my left foot into the center. Okay, feel now when the lunge is all parallel out. Everything's facing and forward goes, especially your left foot here. Okay, toes on the right foot. Lift up the knee and really try to grab your mat with that back foot, pressing the heel down, working from the pelvic floor back. And really keep that dynamic of heel reaching back in air. It's kind of a bummer, right? It doesn't have purpose to go to the floor right now. So there's not any kind of epiphany with that one. So you want to kind of narrow out the hip cycle. So everything's kind of facing towards front. Yep. Spine forward, right? The back is starting to get into a round. Try to reach forward through the core. Okay, now as you step the right foot forward, take a block or a towel between the knees, or one of those balls. You could use that just as well, actually, pretty nicely. So when I squeeze into the object between the knees, keep that pelvic floor tone. I reach my hips back. I try to keep my hips reaching back. Utkatasana, so bring the arms forward. And really get a feel here of the legs pushing into the object center of the knees. Okay, try to let your hips move back and down. Breathing helps. Okay, now when you lower down your hands on blocks and bring our feet closer, we'll step the left foot back into that lunge with the heel reaching. Give it a few moments. Measure the awareness of the right knee above the ankle and the left heel back. Heels up. Yeah, if you're really craving that left quad sensation a little further, you can always take it a wider stance. It's fine. You can span it out a little bit more. As long as you can stay upright. But we keep upright. We're going to reach back through that left heel. I'm going to move myself to turn towards my left. So I want you to turn towards your screen. So you're going to turn inside that right foot. So my hands are going to walk forward with my feet in a wide stance. So my toes are pivoting in slightly. But you be the decider here. I might kind of move my props around so I have maximum space here. But my feet are parallel or slightly turned in, just not turned out. I'm going to take the blocks a little forward and see if I can move my core body, my trunk towards the blocks. Stabilize. Grip the thighs like you're drawing up the kneecaps. Pretty tone here. Really tone your thighs. Okay, feel when you're tipping a little bit forward that you're secure in your heels. Feel your hips back. I recommend that you bend your knees a little bit here and feel that your hips are stretching back. So that might mean your knees feel like they kind of move a little bit apart. They're not turning in further. Take it further by either hands on the floor or lower your blocks. You can also reach your legs with your hands and feel if you can bring your head down to your bolster. Okay, so if I can get my bolster easily, let's say I can get my head on the bolster, instead of you squishing your head down and causing this, actually some stress on your neck muscles, what I would recommend that you do is to bring your feet a little bit closer in and focus on the crown of the head down. Not splaying your legs further and causing any pressure in your neck. So I want you to lightly touch that bolster if you touch it at all, okay? Elbows are out and forward, airing out your pits. Breathe. Yeah, keep drawing up the thighs. You want the thigh energy to still draw up and towards the hip cycle. bend the knees, feel the ribs move forwards. Reach for the blocks if you have the blocks, and when you pull them in, if so, you're going to start to turn back to the front right foot and lower that knee down to the blanket. Okay. So now we have back knee down. We got left thigh stretching, my right knee is above my ankle. Okay, I'm going to connect the parts. So we'll see how it goes. We'll bring our blocks out and we'll walk our right foot to the left and we'll take a seat on the bolster and bring the left leg forward. Okay, so here we are meeting on our backs. All right, so take your blankie all the way to the back. Okay, adjust yourself so that where your seat is center on your bolster. And we'll start with elevated reclining twist. So this is an inversion. So keep in focus that when you're on your back of your pelvi, you want to have as much of it on the bolster as possible. So actually the bolster connects to 1 to 2 ribs, depending on your length. Because everyone's, measurably has differences by metric, right? So when I lower onto my back, I slide forward until I've now adjusted my legs so that they're at a right angle. My head feels the best so far, right? Now I have my neck supported. I'll spread the arms so they feel an openness straight out. Got blocks next to my bolster, not required, but nice. And as I move my knees from right to left side, I want to feel the legs as close together as I can merge them. So this could be a pose cycle that you do with a ball between the knees. That might feel nice in your lower back because it brings a spacer. Right, if I have my knees apart but I have something between, we'll bring a spacer to my back. An actual spacer because your knees are apart and they're locked and connected. If I don't have that, I still will keep that focus in opening my back. Knees are side to side. Keep it very anchored in your core. They don't push forward towards the front of your mat, towards the foot of your mat. They stay right in the centerpiece of your design. Your center of gravity is your pelvis. So last time, when you come back in center, let's bring the left leg down, hold the back of the right leg, alternate leg to chest. Keep it focused at its chest. You're trying to get your knee bending and drawing close in towards your chest. Keep it simple but active so we keep alternating rhythm. There's a pace to it. Maybe we don't have a soundtrack to this one, but it does have a rhythm of movement. So when I exhale, my leg goes down. Inhale, knees are both crossing the center. Inhale, exhale. Take it another 15 seconds. We have a full minute and a half on this one. Get a feel of the alternating pattern, stretching through the thighs. And once they feel pretty worked up, right, the energy is kind of spiraling through the legs, then we'll set ourselves into an inversion. So I take a position with either my feet up. This is good too. I can simply lift up my legs straight up. And if you are doing that and you don't have a sandbag, what you could do is put a belt around the feet and hold that and let your elbows be close by your side so it's not tightening in your shoulders. That way they feel like they're combined together. You can also bring your sand to the soles and use that back of the leg energy to push and push all the way until the legs start to line up. Yeah, feel the back of the pelvis where it's elevated and then let the tailbone feel like it can press into the bolster. I don't have to use any other props on this one. I can keep my shoulders by my sides, elbows open, and hands back. Trace the path of the bones here. Trace the legs. The breath phase is traceable by the inhale, filling the belly, and the exhale, emptying the lungs. So let the weight on your feet enable the feet to flex. If it's a belt across the feet, you're tugging on a little bit. It's a sandbag. You're actually experiencing that connection into your calf and into the ankle joints, becoming a little more flexible and hydrated, right? Getting those tissues lubricated in the ankles. Even if you got no ankle issues, it's good to take care of all these spaces that one never knows. Now, if you start to bend through your knees here, I want to encourage you to really keep the feet so they're straight up. They feel as up over as they can. The idea in here and now is the head is back from the heart, right? You have enough of a dimensional lift in your core and your pelvis that the abdominal organs are above, right? The brain. So we're reversing the effects of gravity on the heart and the lungs. Reviving the legs and the feet. Okay, now as we take a knee bend or a knee dive down to your collarbones, feel the stretch in your back here. I feel how the back creates motion by the knee squeezing down. You've got a belt, this would be a good time to separate from the belt, as well as your sand. So it goes overhead or you push it off to the side yard. And then as you feel the knees drawing in, feel that stretch in your spine. Continue that stretch. So I'm gonna carefully push my bolster, one corner at a time, move it forward so it's not a shock to my sacrum. Okay, and once my back has that flexibility to lower down off the bolster, I bring my feet to my bolster. Yep, I'm gonna push down into the feet and feel where the knees have a motion of moving a little bit inwards, right? I don't want you to knock the knees together, but if you have a ball or a block or probably a smaller towel, right? So you're simply energetically squeezing in. You want to place something center of those knees, and then either block or ball is fine, right? And then you'll push your hips up and get a feel here for simplicity, not overdoing how far you lift your hips, but feeling when you lift them to the amount they can push. Then I want you to get a feel of the glute muscles, the buttock muscles. So you're probably feeling more around the sides of the glutes. So press and lift and notice that side feeling. That's where we're going to deeply stretch in our hip crossovers. So really feel that space activate. Wake up, palms open on the floor, facing towards ceiling. And then lower your spine. Ease the spine into lengthening. So I feel the back of the waist all the way down into my glutes. I try to go all the way through the range of motion till the point where the ball almost drops. Okay. So we activate, we take it a couple more, squeeze the ball or the blocks, and then you're gonna lift up or block singular. Lift the hips up, arms go overhead at your free range of motion, and then lower your spine down. Yeah, take it one more time. See if you can address the circulation all the way back and up to the heart, the throat, and the brain. Feel that strength as you lower down, strengthen your hips. Now as you merge with the floor, you're one with the floor. Okay, let's keep the ball for right now. Keep the ball, bring the knees in. Feel the feet lift up. Okay, feel the shoulders back. Squeeze the ball or block. Take a moment longer here with that awareness in your hips. Even though you might feel it mostly in thigh activation. Circle the feet. Try to keep squeezing. You want to have something in center you're pushing into. Feet both directions. Okay, now feel the feet in neutral. Bring the knees forward and move the ball. Remove the ball. Don't move it, remove it. And then push the bolster to your right side of your mat and start to take on a hip crossover. So our left knee is over to the bolster. And here's where you might put a ball or a block tucked into your sacrum. Maybe, maybe not, it's up to you. If it feels supportive, then use it. If it's not, don't. It might not be an influence for some of us. And then I move my sand to my external left thigh. So I get a whole feeling of the thigh tissue into the hip. So the farther towards the knee I go, it might be a good moment for my hip. It might be too much. So kind of stay with something in between the two. It feels like there could be more, but I'll keep it simple. Open the left arm to the left side of the chest. Head turns left. You get to decide if your right hand is making an impression on your sandbag. But I can feel the lower right hip, the weight bearing into that hip. So the more that you can let yourself relax in it, the better off you'll be. Yeah. Trying might not be very helpful for your nervous system right now. Efforting, gritting your teeth, see if you can feel where there is a nice balance for you. It might mean another blanket on top of your bolster. It might mean some more height under your left leg. But we're all pretty much the same inside what we're searching towards for balance, for support, and feeling that inner connection. If your left arm gets a little tingly all the way down to the wrist, but the arm go a little lower, could happen. Sensation can end sometimes in an arm if it's fried, right? It's been pushed past its edge. Now let's try to bring this one full circle. So if you're content here and you want to stay here, stay. You want to add one layer to this. We'll take the sand aside and place the spine centered back, left foot to right knee, and hold on to the right leg. So it's fairly easy to monitor the connections, but it's a little bit more of that bone strengthening. So pulling in the back of that right thigh, so I'm pulling, and then I feel that sensation directly into my left hip. I feel it in her thigh as well. Yeah, promote that inner thigh stretch. A couple more moments here. Either leg is crossed to the bolster or you're in a reclining. Thread the needle. Now as you slide your hands from the back of the leg uncrossed, it's pretty simple and fast, so you can change from that position, get out of it, right? And then move your bolster to the left side of your mat. And then position the left leg down, right leg to the bolster. Keep in support here. So if this leg feels like there's still something lingering around the knee or the inner thigh muscles, you can add a blanket to the top of the bolster, and it can make a difference. And just toss it up there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does bring me a little bit of joy from my back. Right? So it's all, that whole integration is true, right? You might have a lot of bones in your body, but in some ways, or the question is how many do you have, is oftentimes you've got one, right? It's all integrated and interconnected. So keep it simple, feel the connections, try to really spread them out. And then as I put a ball to my sacrum, I place a sand on my outer right thigh, feeling the traffic flowing in the body nicely. There's not too much traffic. Even in us right now, inside the body, feel where you can merge easily from one joint to the next. And this final spinal, just simply notice and accepting your breath. Empty the lungs. And no one else is going to empty your lungs, I hope. So feeling how you emerge on the in-breath, and you enjoy that out-breath. It's a fairly cleansing process, simple, required. It's a prerequisite here. So let's say you feel a little less on one side, maybe different parts of your hip would feel more. This would be a good one to notice. Notice where your neck is, comfort it. Breathe ribs. A couple more moments. Now where you hold the weight on your thigh, if there is weight, I want you to move that weight off of the leg, unless you're going to stay in the pose a little longer. Some of us might stay with this for another minute. Those that want to move into on the back, right foot to left knee, hold the left thigh. Right, hold the thigh, draw the legs towards you. Stretch out through the lower back muscles. I don't know, I don't necessarily feel this is a spine stretch as much as it's my lower back muscles feel like they kind of get a little bit of a hydration to them, a little bit of kind of rebound in those tissues. Always more to refine here, so feel where you can be complete. And that might mean for you that you need to uncross and windshield wiper your knees side to side. You decide. I'm going to uncross and hold my kneecaps and circle my knees. Feel the lower back rest, and we'll come into a final pose with an inversion focus. So this could be for you legs up the wall. You're at home, so you have some, you don't have to worry about getting a space at the wall right now and anyone around you, right? So you can do that. You can do a chair shoulder stand if you've been taught with that and you have a little learning with that. And you can also go into a bolster bench. Okay, so we'll take a couple blocks, bolster benchers, and we'll put our bolster and our blanket on top. Okay, so what I'll do is merge that support so that I got this a little bit more rolled up, tiny bit, not super tube, but kind of tubular. Okay, got my other props around. I kind of like this one sometimes in the beginning with that ball at the sacrum. I think it kind of gives an interesting feel of settling the nerves. It's challenging because it's a nice kind of warm up into the core nerves. Not the coronary nerves, but the core nerves. I can kind of move my feet, let my heels float. Okay. And you can go without the ball. You don't have to have it at all. If you don't have one, then it's not an issue, is it? And you can move it out anytime. Sand across the ribs or from heart to belly. If you've got some weight to put on you. If you have a little towel or an eye pillow, or we're going to remove your specs away, feel where you have that perspective of centering the face and the jaw. So enable the blanket under your head maybe to be rolled up at the very base of the brainstem so that the jaw can relax. If you're a little chilly, you want to put a blanket over you or something over your lower legs because they will get cool fast. And we hold this long enough for the blood to move from the extremities to the vital organs. So if I suspend my body and lift it up, my arms open, where it's comfortable, maybe right by my sides, maybe farther out, find what is really truly inviting to your mind to settle back through a breathing practice. Trying to feel the shift in your nervous system, slowly breathing in, belly full, empty your lungs. Feel where the belly moves. Probably the same place every time when you're on your back. See if you can move it a little bit further on the in-breath. A little bit higher. Take a few more moments. Track your breathing. Pace it out, calming the nervous system. Try to let the breath and the phases of control start to calm the nervous system. If at any time you move a prop away, you can always shift your pose. And at this time, valuing our connection. Notice if you can feel a tad bit of support in your practice. Feeling that support from others in practice together. And this is truly when we can work on connecting our energy outwards to others. Especially when we're viscerally in our own practice, feeling in our own home. So with an energetic inhale, exhale, let it go. Feel the breath level out. If you have weight on your core, move it aside. Any props that are kind of on you or under you besides your bolster can get moved aside. And then if you're at the wall, you'll start to bend your knees, slide your feet together, knees out. If you're at the bolster, feet together, knees out. Your shoulder stander, same thing actually, unless you're not on a chair. That would be different. So I merge the knees in towards each other and I slide my way to the point of the back supported by floor or bolster, depends on your pose. You're going to rock over to one side and balance your wave of awareness all the way up to center, seated on blanket or flooring, and feel where the shoulders move back. Keep the lines of energy traveling through movement in our shoulders. Movement in our spine, feeling it round into cat, feeling it lift up through its center. And then slide your hands on your thighs and merge the palms in unity, focusing outwards, and then focusing your hands together in front of your heart. Let's move our brain down, bowing into the space behind the heart. Inhale together. Exhale slow. Namaste. And let it go. Okay. Thank you.